I'm Shruti Bharat. In 2021, I had my beautiful son, and it's the best thing that ever happened to me. But I also realized that it was an emotional roller coaster. I wasn't ready for all the changes that happened within me and all of my relationships. But I also realized I am not alone. I accessed a lot of great content during this time, but realized that there just wasn't enough from an Indian context. And I want to do something to change that. Last year, I set up Beyond the Bump, which is a fully volunteer-run platform. And as part of the content offerings of this platform, I'm starting a new podcast called Bump In. It's an opportunity to meet a lot of everyday parents who share their stories of how they're not only surviving, but thriving inside and after the 0 to 24 month phase. So join me as we talk about the highs, lows, the madness, and the inevitable challenges with some laughter sprinkled in between. Be sure to listen all the way till the end for some important takeaways and some resources that might help support your journey. See you soon. Hi Harveen, hi Ranjani. Welcome to a new podcast that I'm developing called Bump In. That is part of a platform that I run in my spare time called Beyond the Bump. Both of you are well aware of this. Thank you so much for making the time to be here. I know with both of you being pregnant, it can't be easy to sit in one place for too long. You might get a bit restless, but I really appreciate it. I think a lot of people are going to benefit from listening to what you have to share with us today. Like I usually do, I want to start off with intros. So, Harveen, I'll give you a chance to say hello and also tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, thank you, Shruti. Hello, everyone. I am Harveen. I am based out of Vancouver, Canada. We moved here 4 years back. Professionally, I work with Randstad Canada as an account manager, which is I basically look after a couple of clients as well as I have a team of recruiters that I look after. Apart from that, personally, also my life evolved or changed after moving to Vancouver, definitely. Um, in India, I was in Bombay where I did have a chance to meet this wonderful person, Shruti, as well. I had a chance to work with her for 4 years, I believe, 3.5, 4 years. Lots of moments, lots of memories. Yes, we've shared a really good time together. Coming to Vancouver, definitely the way it's evolved me is it's made me definitely have a very good establish for myself a very good work-life balance, as well as turn into being a little bit of an outdoorsy person. So I I do a lot of hiking, I do a lot of camping, cycling in my spare time that I have. So that's definitely kind of brought a change into me. I'm almost 32 years old. Going to be 33 soon. So this was a planned pregnancy for both me and my partner. We definitely had discussions on it. We went ahead with it. We had our aims and goals planned. A little bit about my partner, though, we are poles apart. So I am the one who is kind of an executor. He's the one who really likes to plan things out. So hence this was all like very well planned, whatnot. So right now I am on my 36th week pregnant and almost in the last leg of my pregnancy. That's a little bit about myself and my partner. And yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Harveen. I remember my 37th week and everyone telling me to expect the baby now. And he didn't come until 40 weeks. So you may just have a little more time on your hands.
I know.
And the advice I got then is the advice I'll give you, which is pamper yourself, get a lot of sleep. You'll thank yourself for it.
I truly feel you because right now I'm almost like I'm done. When will this baby be out? Like when is the day coming?
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine. And we're going to get into that as well when we talk ahead. Ranjani, welcome and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Right. Thanks, Shruti. So, I'm Ranjani, and for everybody else, I'm also Shruti's sister-in-law. I know her for about 12 years. My brother was married to her. My pregnancy journey has been good so far. I'm just entering my second trimester, about 25 weeks. So far, so good. Touch wood, I hope it remains the same until delivery and after. I'm 34 years old, almost going to turn 35 in a couple of weeks. And in medical terms, at least in India, I'm out of Bangalore, by the way. So in India, they kind of categorize you as high risk pregnancy. Though until now, I've never had any complications. So that's just plays with your mind every time you want to be doing something or deciding what to do, whether you can do X, Y, Z or not. But otherwise, been a very comfortable journey. Right now, I work with an investment banking company. I've been in this profession of chartered accountancy and risk-based audits for about 12 years now. And I'm out of Bangalore, based out of Bangalore. Have always been in Bangalore, so my family is here. My husband's family is also over here. A little bit about my husband. We met in college. I know him since college, so about 17 years. Of course, we started dating much after college, and then we got married. In terms of personality, I consider myself very, very quiet and introvert if I don't really know the group who I'm speaking to. He is a better introvert than me. So you can imagine the kind of conversations and how difficult it is for me to get him to be social. Yeah, that's about it. Back to you, Shruti.
Thank you, Harveen. Thank you, Ranjani. Such different personalities, and I'm quite excited to see how you both kind of share a little bit more about your pregnancy as well. So I'm just a little bit ahead of you in the journey, 2-ish years ahead. I've felt a lot of the things that you're feeling, excited, nervous, all the things, that come with it. And I think that's kind of what I wanted to dig into in this conversation as well. Pregnant women in completely different cities with a very different type of community around you, right? Whether that's your family or your friends or whoever you're living with. I'd love to hear from both of you as to how you've gotten your support up till now, right? Especially from the medical fraternity. So we'll start there in terms of how, I think Ranjani, you talked about how you're dealt with in a slightly more high risk way given the age you're at, even though there's no actual risk per se in your specific situation. But let's start with how have your doctors and medical practitioners helped you so far up till now, and what has been some of the good and the not so good in this journey, because that's where pregnancy starts for everyone, right? Who's your doctor? How are they dealing with you? Because that's the only person you can trust in this journey in the beginning, at least, right? So maybe Ranjani, we can start with you and then we can hear from Harveen.
Sure. So, like I said, I'm based out of Bangalore, India. So, compared to a little bit I know compared to other regions, the medical practice over here is kind of different. Though theoretically, it's medicine is all the same, right? So, in terms of support, medically, I think my obstetrics gynecologist, who's practical, that's what I've figured through all my discussions with her. But at the same time, probably it's my case. She wants to tread on line of caution because of my age, right? So she every time you tend to ask your doctors, am I allowed to do this particular activity? Can I do this? Can I undertake travel? So while she says yes, a statement she kind of puts in is, if you can avoid, why don't you avoid it? Why do you want to take a risk?
Yeah.
Right? So that's the advice, and I kind of mostly I agree with her. Sometimes I disagree with her as well. But then I guess at one point of time, this point of time, we are at a stage where we need to prioritize the baby compared to your likes and dislikes, right? So I would say that is the only downside to my situation. But in terms of advantages or in terms of positives, my doctor is absolutely practical. I feel that she's somebody who doesn't really believe in any of these myths, right? So, though I might have certain restrictions in terms of food, in terms of normal exercises, I don't have any restrictions. So she's never told me, don't do this, you're pregnant, so you need to behave in a specific way. She never she never made me feel that way. So my appointments
Yeah.
with her have been really really jovial, wherein it's a heart to heart discussion. So I
Yeah.
kind of, I mean, we've gone to the, maybe it's a little early now, but we've also, how I want the birthing experience.
Yeah.
And there was a point of time where she kind of brought me back to reality and said, whatever it is, whatever you are learning from these online classes in terms of gentle birth, non medicated birth, there is just so much which we can do to support you. When you are in the
Correct.
hospital, our priority is to get the baby out, right?
Correct.
And to
Correct.
keep you safe. So that, I feel she gives me balanced messages, and I'm absolutely comfortable in discussions with her where she's going to see me without any judgment and give her her views, and up to me to take it up or not.
Yeah. No, that's wonderful that you shared that, Ranjani. I think for me, when I moved from Bombay to Bangalore when I was pregnant with my son, I think finding a doctor was like dating again, right? You have to find the right partnership. You have to find someone who won't unnecessarily scare you, will deal with you in a way that they don't pathologize every problem. Every pregnancy is different, every woman is different. So I mean, for them, we're many people who have pregnancies, but for us, we are the unique case, and it's our baby, our body, and so we're a lot more. I think we're also a lot more. At least I can speak for myself. I was a lot more sensitive to who was dealing with me, because I also had Surya during a pandemic, and I was already so restricted that any more restrictions felt like it would be like prison. And I refuse to accept certain restrictions like exercise, like you, because it will help me mentally. But it's so good to know that, there are doctors out there who are okay. Yes, they may be dealing with someone who's a little bit older than your average pregnancy, but they're dealing with you in a practical way, and they also respect your choices. This is not something you hear very often. There are a lot of doctors who are very judgmental, very risk averse, who will really hassle, women in India. And I think you being empowered, knowing what you want, you also educated yourself to understand what are your options, right? And I do remember having very similar thought process. In fact, I think my doctor really had to convince me to have, my baby on the day I had. She left me for a few hours to decide whether now we can induce the labor and kind of go into a C-section, because I was quite adamant about a vaginal delivery. So I totally understand, where you're at. Completely get it. Harveen, how are things in Canada? I'm assuming some of this is the same, but tell us more.
Yes, I mean, definitely. But there are a couple of, like, my medical experience has been slightly different. Here, of course, for the first couple of months, you're not assigned a gynac immediately as you are in India. So for the first 4 months, I was still dealt by my family doctor, post which I was assigned a gynac.
Wow.
Uh, the other weird thing about the medical or the system here is, which is my birth, like the delivery of my kid would not necessarily be done by the same gynac I'm seeing. It could be done on any it could be done by any doctor on duty. So uh, that's something I had to
Wow.
really and mentally prepare myself about, because I do know in India it's really different. Your doctor who's been dealing with you for the past 9 months is the same one who helps you deliver the baby or bring the baby into this world, right? So that's one of the different
Yeah.
things. In terms of having a great, like, I definitely had a very good family doctor who was very supportive in the initial few days. During my introduction, I did mention I had some complications in my first trimester. So, what happened with me was I had some spotting. It wasn't bleeding necessarily, but I did have some spotting um, just
Yeah.
at the end of my first trimester. And of course, you as an individual, because you are going through this journey, you get really, really scared about it. Like, what is this about? I remember the doctors
Yeah.
around me being very supportive and letting me know that this is absolutely nothing to be worried about. However, yes, of course, a couple of my friends or a couple of, like, even my parents back at home, they made me worry all the more, and they were like, this is probably a very big deal. However, everyone around me, the medical system and all the doctors around me here, they made me feel very comfortable about it. Even in terms of having any restrictions, as you were mentioning, Ranjani, that I think my experience with my doctors have been a little bit different in terms of that. Whenever I have gone to them, and I've always, because I had this complication early on during my pregnancy, I did have a notion that I have to always be extra cautious with everything I do, be it exercises or be it even doing my day to day, even attending work, right? So whenever I would go to my doctor with questions as to, hey, can I do some prenatal yoga exercises, or could I do walking, or all the other questions, she would always advise me to to do anything and everything that I feel I am comfortable with. She never advised me
Yeah.
anything adverse, as long as all the results, all the reports, and everything else was normal. They gave me a very, very factual outcome to all of this, and they were like, there's nothing to worry about. Do what you are doing, live your life as you were, and just carry on with your day to day as, like, as you usually do. So yeah, that was definitely really, really helpful for me to get back on track, and then kind of resume everything that I wanted to do.
Yeah. No, I do remember speaking to you about this, Harveen, when you were going through it, and I can totally understand how scary that could have been, especially because you don't know what's happening and you're going through it for the first time, right? And I'm so glad things worked out and everything's perfectly all right. It was then and it continues to be. And it's good to know that you didn't have too much of a paranoid physician who was still allowed you to have your normal life. I think that's really important because it's a mind game at the end of the day. I think you
Exactly.
also have to have a lot of like internal positivity and strength to go through a pregnancy. It's a lot of hard work, whether people understand it or not. It's hard work that you're not doing consciously, but your body is doing a lot of hard work. So I'm glad that you were able to get through that. I want to switch gears to talking about the most. I mean, the pregnancy is, especially with every scan and every test that you're doing, you're constantly looking. You're looking for problems. At least in India, you're looking for something to be wrong, and you're hoping nothing is wrong, right? And as you get through that, you get through the third trimester, and then you're ready to deliver. Let's talk a little bit about birthing and birth planning. Maybe we'll start with you again, Harveen. What are you thinking if you're open to sharing? What does that look like? You're not far away. Have you thought through what you think the day will be and what you're hoping the day will be and how you're prepared for that?
So yes, of course, a lot of reading, a lot of research, and something that you said earlier in this conversation definitely rings a bell. As you mentioned that you were really, really adamant on having a vaginal delivery. I am exactly the same. Whenever I go to my doctor, I'm like, that's the way I want it to be. And she's like, yes, of course, we do understand. So far, everything's good, but you do need to know, and you do need to have that acceptance in you that whatever come will come. And of course, as Ranjani also mentioned,
Yeah.
the majority, like their focus is going to be to bring out the baby out, like to bring the baby out safely as well as the mother's safety. And they were like, if there is something last minute that happens, you got to be ready for that. But yes, my whole aim, my goal is to have a vaginal delivery, a normal delivery as much as possible. I am doing a lot of things in preparation of that as well. So yoga, walking, all of that I've been, kind of actively pursuing. Not just now, but I started it early on. I've started doing all of these prenatal yoga exercises from the fifth month of my pregnancy. So I really hope that
Yeah.
helps me go in the right path and helps me achieve what I do want to. Um, I know mentally I am prepared. Yes, initially, if you would have asked me the same question maybe 3 weeks back, I was a little nervous. I was a little nervous about, oh my God, how is this going to be? The baby is safe inside my womb right now. She's moving, and
Oh,
she's
she's a
like, yes.
she. Thank you for sharing.
We
How
did have
You're
a
very
gender
lovely.
lucky.
we did have a gender
You
reveal,
had a
and
gender reveal.
yes.
So sweet. That's amazing.
So, yes. So, yeah, she's nicely moving. I'm so happy, like having her inside all to myself. And I'm also a bit nervous, not a bit nervous, but
Yeah.
I'm also like, when she's out, I won't be having her just to myself, right? I'll have to share her with everyone around me. So that's the other part of it. But yeah, my biggest fear was definitely how will I do that? How will I get the strength to actually deliver the baby as it's supposed to be?
Yeah.
But I don't know, something just changed in the last 2 weeks. The more the time is coming closer, I am just feeling a little bit more confident with each passing day that it will work
Yeah.
out the way it's supposed to be, the way it's meant to be. So yes.
That's awesome. I want to share a little bit about my experience too. I think I was definitely scared. I was scared on two fronts. One was the actual. I didn't know how much. I don't know how much it'll hurt. Right? You have, as human beings, you have an aversion to pain. No matter how high your pain threshold is, you don't know what pain that is going to feel like. And I have some idea of it now, having gone into labor. I remember I would talk to my mom, and I would speak to. I took Lamaze classes. I did what you're supposed to do, right? But nothing. As an extremely thinking person that I am, I needed to have some benchmark for how much it will hurt. And I remember, finally, like you, Harveen, just accepting the fact that your body knows what to do, right? Ultimately, you don't really have to think it through. It's gonna happen one way or another. You can either like struggle through it, or you can accept it and sort of, make your way through the journey. And I think that realization, like you said, comes pretty close to the end. I think it has something to do with the hormonal mix, right? Your body is preparing also to deliver, and therefore, I think all the hormones are also recalibrating a little bit to make that happen. Oxytocin kind of goes up. You're also, going to start bonding with this new baby, all of that. It's definitely a bubble it's almost like a bubble that's going to burst and now give rise to a new bubble. So I totally relate. I think it is what I've heard from a lot of women who I've been speaking to. There are people who've birthed in midwife situations. So they've birthed underwater, they've birthed in a hospital. I think there's even someone I've spoken to who's had a home birth. I think ultimately the journey is very personal. It's very unique to that person. There will be whatever you expect, and there's also a lot of unexpected. But I'm certain that the journey will be very, very memorable. So you're going to remember it for your whole life, and I think it's going to be exciting. I'm so happy you're having a girl. That's brilliant. Great news to share with us. Ranjani, what about you? What are you thinking? I know as our introvert in this panel, you might feel a lot of things but not talk about it. But what are you thinking about your preparation towards birth?
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm happy we're speaking about this. And Harveen, congratulations on the gender.
Thank
Though
you.
I'm balanced about it, my husband really wants a girl.
Mine too.
Even I want you to
Surprisingly,
have a
yes.
girl.
He was so happy. Like during my initial days, everyone who would look at my belly, they were like, it's a boy, it's a boy. So mentally, I was kind of convinced it's a boy until we had the baby shower and gender reveal. So my friends kind of planned it out. And when I actually saw it was the color pink, I was like, wait, I was shocked, but my husband was teary, and he's the emotional one between the two of us. So he was the teary, and he's definitely so
How
happy. I
sweet.
mean, me too, of course, but yeah.
So sweet. So it's the same situation for me. Though I'm entering my 7th month, I feel, and people have told me that my bump is not showing too much. And over here, they go by some myths. We talk about it later, but size of the bump or what it is, right? So I am convinced that it's going to be a boy, and I'm preparing my husband to say, if it is not a girl, don't be upset. You can't push him back or not take him home. You have to bring
Yes.
him
Return.
home. Yeah, you have to come back with this baby.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's good knowing you can shop for the right colors. Not to say
And
that blue
prepare,
is only
yeah.
for boys.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So my birthing plan. Now, before I even get there, I'll maybe just talk a little bit about myself in terms of what kind of a person I was, and I feel this pregnancy journey has made me a better person mentally. So I've been something called a control freak, wherein I'd like to think about how a situation is going to pan out. Not just prepare, but also think about how the situation is going to pan out, right? And that's one of the
Just like
reasons
us.
and that's
Yeah.
one of the reasons why I also moved out from consulting, because it was making me a worse control freak. Okay? Freedom from myself, not from other people. So this pregnancy journey, and I was taken by surprise as well, because there were many people who did tell me that you're high on hormones, natural transition of the body. You're going to behave in a specific way. You're going to trouble your husband. You're going to trouble people around you. Now, I don't know if it was a conscious thought or what. I hope my husband feels the same way. I feel that I didn't behave in a specific way as people told me. I felt I become much more calmer and
Nice.
much more acceptable of, okay, this is what it is. And like both of you mentioned, most women go through this. So it's not a medical condition which is rare to me, right? It's we've seen our parents doing it. We've seen people around me. I mean, I've seen Shruti doing it. There's so many other people doing it. So what is it? What is it so different? Why do you consider yourself so unique? Is something which comes to my mind. And like you said, yeah, your body knows what to do it when the time is right. It's going to do what it has to do, whether it is going to push it out through the vagina or whether it's going to be a C-section, whatever type of birth, right? So I think this pregnancy journey has brought me into that much more practical, matter of fact
Yeah.
space. So I started thinking about my birth plan, of course influenced by these influencers of this unmedicated, maybe water birth. Okay, now from there my pregnancy is high risk, so I did away with that plan. And then the second thing is, like most people, like what they want, I also want to have a vaginal delivery, right? Because we hear that that's better in terms of recovery, etc., etc. I'm sure it has its other complications as well, but predominantly that's much better. But then when I have my discussions with my doctor, while one thing which she told me is, most people at this age with this high risk pregnancy, they just want to go into the hospital, come back with a baby. That's all they want to do, right? She's told me I'm going to wait for 40 weeks. And for me, that was much more than enough.
Yeah.
Right? I'm very happy that you're going to be waiting for full term, not telling me that only 38 weeks. Right?
Correct.
I'm okay if she doesn't wait beyond that. And she said, naturally, if you do not go into labor, then maybe I will give you a trial of labor because you really want that. But then after X number of hours, whatever it is, if labor does not progress, it is going to be a C-section. Right? So she kind of prepared me for both, giving me an option. But then at the same time, now I know that I can't be adamant and say only have a vaginal delivery. Right? So short answer, it's not my plan. It's what is going to happen at that point in time. And I think I've come to an agreement. I'm still coming to an agreement that I need to be open to it. Right? And at the end of the day, whatever it is, the result is the same, that you are bringing your child into this world, right? However
100%.
the delivery is. As long as the child is healthy, as long as you are doing well, you probably will take some more time to get better, that's fine. But as long as the child is healthy, I think that's what is important at this point in time.
Harveen, Ranjani, thanks. I know you shared quite a bit about how you're thinking about this birth. And I think from both of your perspectives, I can see that there's a very pragmatic approach, that you want to honor what you want to do, but you also want to be open to what might actually happen. Okay, and I think that's a really great space to be in. I think it's also a hallmark of the fact that you both are mature mothers. You're both in your 30s. You kind of know what you're doing. And I think, Ranjini, like you shared, I think being a control freak is actually great, and I fully embrace a large part of it. There are some parts of it that can be quite annoying and very exhausting, and I think those parts we can get rid of. But I mean, you're the boss. You gotta be in control of the situation, right? So I totally understand that. So we're going to move into a slightly different line of questioning and then slowly wind down the conversation. Are you thinking both of you are working women? You are definitely going to be taking a small break, if not a longer break, and hopefully getting back to some form of your work. It's going to be a little bit different than before, surely. Tell us about how you're thinking about that, because that today, from the vantage of your pregnancy and then in the real moment of actually having your baby, that does evolve over time. But I'd love to hear how you're thinking of it now, and what advice you've received about this as well. So maybe Ranjini, will start with you and then we'll move to Harveen.
Okay, sure. So honestly, Shruti, I am not thinking too much about it. I
Yes.
don't want to.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's better probably.
Yeah, because working is what I know to do. And that's what I've
Yeah.
been doing after I finished my studies, right? So, so much so that I never had a concept of free time. Maybe that's my own problem of not having that personal development mindset. So if you ask me what my hobby is, no, I mean, I probably would say watching TV, but watching TV is not a hobby, right? It's a waste of time. So that's what I know. I'm so much so that today's an off in India for Republic Day. So I need to think about, okay, what should I do if I'm not going to be logging into my work? What should I do? So that's I would say working and mentally being occupied in a specific way is what I know. Now I
Yeah.
know, also understand, hear from people, seen it, wherein once you get a baby, you will also be mentally occupied. You could be exhausted. You could be experiencing so many other different emotions, etc. That's also work. I mean, just because you're not sitting in front of your laptop and going to office, it doesn't mean you're not working. You're doing hard work. You've done hard
Yeah.
work. You're going to continue to do that, right? So I only know, and right now, I only know that I have family around for support, right? Be it continuous support. They're not very close to me. It is a distance to travel, but compared to everybody else, I at least have someone, three sets of families around to ask for help, to call for help, etc.
Yeah.
So in terms of helping hands, I think I already have a village close to me to help me raise that baby, right?
Yeah.
So it's only about how I personally am able to manage expectations at my workplace. But my thought is, if I'm confident that things at home are kind of taken care of, then you have that extra mind space to think about, okay, how you need to be doing things better at your workplace.
Yeah.
So that's one thought which I have. I'm also trending on a thought to say that, okay, if at all, you never know how this birthing experience is. You never know what kind of support your child will need, right?
Yeah.
If at all there is a need for me to take a break, to slow down, yeah, I will do it, because we've waited so many years to have this child. And if you're not going to be giving that mental space for that child, if you're not going to be
Yeah.
available, if you're just going to let him or her grow with the society around and just spend those 1 hour, or just sit with them and hi bye, I don't think that's really justice, right? It's
Yeah.
like having
Yeah.
a pet, and more of a dog. You wouldn't really want to leave your dog alone and just come and see you before you go to bed, right? There's some engagement which you need to have. So
Yeah.
I'm trending on both lines. I don't know. I don't know how it's going to pan out. Maternity in India is just 6 months. So
Yeah.
I only have time until December to figure out what I need to do, right? So yeah, a lot of things I don't know. I don't have a plan, but I only know that I want to be as active as I can in terms
Yeah.
of intellectual thought and putting my education into practice. But you never know how things are going to plan out, so I'm just going to let that be and take it up as and when it comes.
That makes complete sense. I think what you're sharing basically is that you have an open mind, and since this is something you're getting into with your eyes open, you don't want to give either one too much of a raw deal. So, baby needs to get enough time from you, but maybe if there's a way to balance, because you do have a support system, you can figure out a way to make work work as well, right, in
Yeah.
your life. And I totally get that. That's a journey I'm taking on a daily basis. There are many, many weeks where I actively consider whether I should be working as much as I do because I want to be more available for my son. I think that was one of my biggest struggles after I went back to work, is if I'm giving him enough of my time. And I would get daily coaching from my husband and maybe a few other people in terms of, I think what I'm doing is way more than enough. And it's just that I think it's a personality trait as well, like you say, I think that's one of the things that happens when you have kids in your 30s, is that you are quite established from a personality perspective, right? You know what you like, you know what you don't like, you know you have certain very fixed ideas about, the way the world should be, the way family should be, etc., etc. And I think those adjustments become a bit of shocks, when you have to like change the way that you're thinking or change the way that you are supposed to present in your family. There's a lot that you've shared, Ranjani, that we should definitely unpack on, but we'll maybe save that for another conversation. But that I think that sounds like a very open plan, and that will work. Harveen, what about you? What are you thinking about, and how do things work in Canada?
So yes, for me, Shruti, going back to my first trimester complication, part of the reason I even had that in the first place was because I was trying to juggle everything and be productive 100% for everything. So being pregnant,
Yeah,
doing my day-to-day house chores, giving my 100% at work as well. I do remember having this conversation with you back then, and there's something that you said to me which has really, really stuck upon me, and something that I really do want to take ahead, which is what you had mentioned to me back then was that I need to understand, I need to accept that productivity is different for me now. So I'm actually growing a baby inside of
yeah,
me, right? And that itself is a full-time job. Uh, that is something that really, really clicked to me. Uh, and that is something that I have been following religiously after my first trimester, which then helped me establish the balance. Again, all of us being the career oriented women we are, we definitely want to give 100% at work. We definitely want our careers to go ahead. We don't want to slow down on those terms. However, asking for help, especially from our partners, this the generation we live in right now, I do believe most of our partners would want to co-parent with us, would want to like be as involved as we are. So me as an individual, I used to never ask for help. I'm someone who likes to do everything by myself, have everything under control. However, realizing the fact that it's completely fine to just ask help from your partner or from the support system that you do have around yourself is not gonna hurt. In fact, it's gonna help you. It's gonna empower you to focus on better things, right? I do want to be so in terms of the how things work here in Canada. I have taken a year of maternity leave. So my maternity leave starts from mid-February, which is closer to my due date. 1 year of maternity leave, post which I do want to return back to work. However, yes, I I need to I want to also be as involved with my kid as possible, right? So juggling between the two
yeah,
things, making sure that I have enough time with my kid to because that's an individual who we would want to shape. We would want to make sure we're there for the highs and lows for our kid, right? So I definitely
yeah,
want to make sure that I am there for that. As Ranjani also mentioned, I don't have a concrete plan as to how would I do that, but I do like so for even for now, I have my mother and my father-in-law who are with me, biggest support system, and of course my partner as well. So the three of them are supporting me in this journey, and I'm sure even later on once the baby comes out, they're going to be there as my support system. So a couple of things that I just need to remind myself is asking for help, which is something that doesn't come very naturally or easily to me, but I need to make sure I do that more often, is asking for help, making myself understand, having set certain priorities, even, and it's not just about the kid, it's
yeah,
also, so me and my husband, we had this discussion as well. We need to remember that the kid is coming into our lives and it's not the other way around. So what I mean by that is that all of us, we all have a certain way that we live. For example, I was mentioning about hiking, camping, cycling, whatnot, right? I know for a fact I might not be able to do it 100% as I used to do before I was pregnant, but at the same time, I want to have
yeah.
all those experiences with my kid. So yes, making sure that having
No,
like
for
at
sure.
least trying my best to make sure that I am able to strive that balance. And yes, of course, every kid is different, every journey is different. So just being open and accepting it, taking it one day at a time.
No, that's fantastic. I think what you both are sharing is the classic. You all are both really pragmatic, but there's also a certain amount of bliss in the journey. You can really tell that the two of you are open-minded to saying, okay, look, I'll take things as they come. I also know what I'm getting into. You're not coming into this naive. You're not saying this is going to be like, how it is in the movies. You go into labor, the baby's out instantly, and then, happy ending. It's just the beginning, at that point. I think that's fantastic. I think I can relate to everything you're saying, both of you are saying. And I think what the first 6 months really does shape you quite a bit, because what tends to happen is you learn a lot about yourself as a mother, as a set of parents. You're also trying to establish some routines. You're also quite sleep deprived, and I think that has a lot of impact on mood. I think that if there was a way to solve just that one problem, right? How to get enough sleep so that you're fine, your mood will be totally different. Because I think for me, the challenge was I was easy to misunderstand. People read my bad mood as being angry with everyone, but in generally, I was just really, really tired, because obviously I'm barely getting 2 hours of sleep, consecutive sleep, and I'm doing all the other work that you generally do around the house. I think I would do that differently if I had a chance, and I probably will do that the next time around. Is totally learning that productivity means a completely different thing. Let go of control and absolutely ask for help. Like you quoted me, Harveen, in advice I gave you. Someone gave me advice at the time. Don't worry about your child getting five-star treatment from everyone. As long as they're safe, go take a break and come back. They don't have to be like in this pristine, perfect environment all the time. It's fine. They'll be fine. Trust that they are resilient and you don't have to care for every single moment. It's a journey. It's definitely not something you can convince yourself in the beginning. It happens over time. But I can tell from both of you that you are, both really practical and have a very thought through approach in terms of what you're getting into, and that's fantastic. So we're going to close out the conversation with some questions that I love to ask people. If there was a myth about pregnancy that you both would want to bust, that should not exist, that is just unnecessary, is there anything that you would point at? And maybe I can start us off, right? I wish that we could get rid of the geriatric pregnancy term. I think it's definitely antiquated. People can get pregnant well into their 40s if they wanted to. And I would get rid of the term just out of a mark of respect and kindness to women. So that's I mean, there are many myths to bust, but that's one myth I would really go after selfishly. What about you
100%.
guys?
For me, honestly, I mean, again, the same thing. I did hear once you cross the age of 30, it's going to be extremely difficult for you to conceive, whatnot. A lot of people, and again, as we were discussing this earlier in our conversation as well, that every pregnancy is different, every individual is different, right? So the common myths that I heard at the start of my pregnancy was that you'll have a lot of mood swings, you'll have nausea, you'll have, you're going to change as an individual, you'll have a lot of changes in yourself. Again, knock on the wood, I think I was blessed to not have most of those things. Of course, there are a couple of things that do happen to
Yeah.
you naturally. However, I do think that there are certain myths that the society has set that this is how the pregnancy or the next 9 months are going to look like, which is truly not the case. As I mentioned, everyone has a very different experience, right? So for me, apart from the first trimester, which was a little bit traumatic or a little bit, for me, at least individually, trying to be a bit more cautious. The rest of my pregnancy was extremely smooth flowing. It was just accepting what comes my way and just having that positive outlook, just being positive about everything that comes your way. I'm not saying that during my pregnancy I didn't have all the aches or it isn't uncomfortable. 100% it's super uncomfortable. Like even doing minor things like just getting up from your bed right now, since I'm like fully pregnant, like with the whole big belly, all those things are very, very difficult. But at the same time, just making yourself understand, giving yourself the bigger picture, and yeah, just looking forward for the journey, just giving yourself those positive affirmations. I think that is definitely that has helped me burst all those myths about the pregnancy that I heard.
Yeah, makes sense. I totally agree. I think a lot of those symptoms are kind of made up and more dramatic. I mean, maybe
Yeah.
it happens to a lot of people, but it doesn't happen
Yeah,
to everyone. So I totally
everyone,
agree with you.
exactly.
Ranjini, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, just picking up from all of those mood swings, etc. Like I said, I didn't have any, or maybe subconsciously I was able to kind of manage it within myself. At the same time, at this time, we have a common friend who gave birth, and she was 5 months pregnant when I was in my first trimester. So I remember her husband, who's also our friend, Shankar, in our native language, saying, you are dead meat. They're going to ask you things which they're going to tell you things which you can't imagine. If you breathe next to her, it's going to be a problem because she thinks you're too loud. I feel it. My experience wasn't that dramatic. So the myth of you will always have mood swings or it would be uncontrollable mood swings is not true for everybody. There might be different
Correct.
people who have different methods of coping with it, right? And for me, just to give you context, Shankar is my husband is not somebody who is emotionally available at all points in time. Okay, his work is so dynamic that he runs his own business, so I can't expect him to put aside thinking about how much to earn and how to execute an event when he needs to be the brain behind it and channelize all of that energy towards me. So I think that acceptance kind of came in to me to say that okay, at majority I need to figure out how to manage myself. Of course, lean on to him and lean on to family for support, but I can't expect them to kind of pamper me and manage me and put me in my
As the main.
main thing.
Not
Yeah.
So
all the time for sure.
that's
Yeah.
one main myth. Yeah. The second thing is food. So I've heard about food aversions and cravings. I didn't have any aversions. I didn't have any unusual cravings than what I already used to like. So something which I actually find funny is people telling you this is a very weird myth which I heard.
Okay.
A mother told me, an elderly person. I said, okay, auntie, I don't have that vegetable anyways, but why shouldn't I eat it, right? Like, no, if you eat turnip, there would be brown patches on your child. Okay, so
Strange.
I was like, oh, no, this person, I cannot reason with this person. Okay, the second thing which I don't like listening to from people is have kesar after a particular month.
Oh,
Right?
yeah.
Have that kesar in milk. Now, most people think that it gives color, but I want to break their bubble and say the minute your child is conceived, the color has already been decided. So whether you have a kilo of kesar later or not, it's not going to change. Right? It's not under your control. Right?
Yeah.
So and I don't, and that's because I think it always also comes through family practice, right? My mother, I don't think she followed it. Maybe the kesar is something which she had. For whatever reason, I don't know, but she hasn't told me to do this. She hasn't said don't eat this, other than the papaya and pineapple, which I think is kind of a little risky.
Yeah.
But otherwise, it's pretty normal, right? Don't have caffeine. No, there are days when I still drink 2.5 glasses of caffeine.
Yeah.
And our family, Shruti knows, we are caffeine. It's like
Yeah.
petrol for us in the morning. Without that, we cannot wake up.
Can't function.
Right?
It's
Cannot
the fuel
function.
you
So,
need to. Yes.
yes. So all of this. And the last thing, which I think it's a term, it's a mindset which needs to change. Maybe people are doing it subconsciously. Is did you have a normal delivery or did you have a
Oh my
C-section?
God. It's so. I find it extremely irritating, which is why I
Yeah.
never share anything about my delivery to anyone. The uninitiated don't hear anything. No, I totally get
Normal or
it.
C-section, right? Vaginal delivery is, I mean, C-section is not abnormal. It's just that now it's a little different in medical fraternity where most of them have a C-section for whatever reason. But yeah, I don't think that term is right.
No,
Correct.
very well said. Very well said.
Yeah, just
Absolutely.
because I have my child through C-section, it doesn't mean that it's not a normal birth. It's probably out of the majority, or whatever it is. And there are people also say, oh, you anyway had a C-section, so it must have been easy for you because the child did not have to, come out through your vagina. I understand that there could be, there are disadvantages of that, but you're getting cut through 7 layers. It's not easy, and
Not even little bit.
you are the primary caregiver. The maximum you can do is ask your partner or mother to hold the child, right? But emotional bonding, feeding, whatever it is it's you, right? And the last
Yep.
thing is feeding. Now, I don't know, we've discussed, it's a personal choice, right? I know of people, my friends, who are very adamant of having to breastfeed and caused a lot of emotional turmoil. I also
Yeah.
know of another friend who was okay because her child did not latch the entire 6 months or 7 months. She pumped and fed that child because she said, and
Yeah.
that friend also told me that, and for the 6 months she was in her mother's house. So she's like, my in-laws don't know this. My mother-in-law does not know this because she will not understand. Right? There will be a lot of judgment and this and that. So yeah, feeding, and the other thing with feeding is, if you have smaller breasts, that means you don't have enough milk. Right? It's not a
It's not a
tanker,
size thing.
right?
It's not
So
related to
it's
size.
it's annoying. I think
Yeah.
um, um, yeah, I think being pregnant and going through all of this is one thing, but as much as we have the family support, we also need to be resilient so that things which they tell us don't really affect us much. So take in only what you want. Just probably
Totally
smile
leave
at
what doesn't work.
what doesn't work for you, right? And I think that's also, it's a great thing. While it's sometimes a disadvantage that you get pregnant after 30, but I think it's a great thing. You're getting pregnant after a time when you know what you are and who you are, right? If I had got pregnant at 25, I would have loved that, right? I wasn't married then, but anyway, 27,
Sure.
I would have loved it, right? Because now I realize that yes, it would have been easier. I would have really not had to think so much about my career. Things could have been really easy. But maybe my personality was not that developed even at that time. But I probably would have succumbed to what people tell me around me,
Yeah.
right? And start thinking that, oh, pregnancy means you are differently abled. No, right? For me now, very, very simple example. I've been driving for 3 years only, but then if somebody tells me that you cannot drive, right, it's like snatching something away from me. It wasn't my birth right or something like that, but then I've been doing that. And if I want to go close by, I don't want to be calling a cab. I don't want to be calling my husband. I just want to be taking my car and going.
Yeah.
So it's, you're normal. You're not you. It's not that you can't do specific things. You just need to be extra careful, right? So I think a lot of myths which need to be broken.
You touched on all of them, Ranjani. Well said. Very well said.
Hopefully,
I
Yes.
completely relate to everything. I think the breastfeeding part is absolutely right. Size is a totally different matter, but how you feed your child is your problem, right? Whether you want to give breast milk, whether you want to give formula, whether you feed for 1 month, whether you feed for 3 years, there's judgment across the board. Oh, this is too little. Oh, this is too much. Oh, this is too fast. Oh, this is too slow. And it is, if you let it, I think for me personally, some of it did affect me initially because I was not having enough bandwidth to be resilient. When you're already low on energy because you're not sleeping, you're not eating right, you're not exercising, when people start to tell you things, when you're having so little battery, you tend
you
to
give
take
up.
it a bit more seriously. When you're in this state of mind, well rested, well fed, you like brush it off as like, okay, cool, this is your opinion. And I think that part is something I would do differently, the next time around, God willing. And I think for me, the other point you touched upon about this normal versus C-section, I think it's almost like passed down behavior. I see people ask, even they don't even want to know the answer. They're asking you just to ask.
Yeah.
Most of the time, you can say anything. My baby came from a bird in the sky, also, it doesn't matter. You can give any answer, right? It really doesn't matter. Like, I've had some absolute strangers ask me, and I'm like, you don't even know my full name. Why does it matter how I had my baby?
That's my
Like,
question. Why does it matter to you? Whichever form I had my baby, why does it matter to you, right?
yeah. And I don't think either form of delivery, whether vaginal or C-section, is an easy way out or an easy way in because both involve a great deal of risk, There is risk on both sides. There is, you need it. I mean, having a C-section is equivalent to having a knee surgery in terms of the seriousness, right? And I think we all know how serious a knee surgery is. It involves a certain degree of risk on both sides of the table. There are 20 people in the OT who are doing different things at the same time, and you're completely out of control, right? And I mean, I know that experience vividly. So I think that, and even recovery from that, it's not like you know, 2 days out and you're like running a marathon or anything. You do take time. The pain comes and it comes how, right? So I think it's just a lot of, it continues to be just pressure on women to do things a certain way. If you do it any other way, there's something wrong with you, or, you are, I don't know, you're taking the easy way out. And I don't agree with that. And I completely agree that maybe the only way to bust these myths is with ourselves, to have our own beliefs and perspectives and not really worry about what anyone else has to say about it. And I fully agree with you, Ranjani. I wouldn't have it any other way. I'm really glad I had Surya when I had him. I wouldn't rewind time for anything. I think that was when I was ready. That was when my husband was ready, and it's absolutely wonderful to hear how practical the two of you are and how well prepared. And I hope a lot of people who are listening to this will gain the confidence to have their own opinion despite having their village. And I think that's for me the biggest takeaway from the discussion I'm having with the two of you. Women who are empowered to take their own decision, willing to be corrected if necessary, keeping an open mind, not succumbing to the stereotypes of, the dramatic pregnant woman for whatever reason that might be. Strong, standing your ground. Fantastic. This has been such a beautiful conversation. I thank both of you. I think a lot of people, like I said, are going to have something to take away here. And even if they're not necessarily, actively in their career right now, even if you don't have, paid work to go back to, I think there are a lot of people who are going to take away some beautiful things from this conversation. So thank you both so much for your time. I know this has been a longish session, but really, really appreciate it.
It's been very nice, like
Thank you,
honestly
Shruti.
conversing with both of you. Really good. Thank you so much.
And I just want to add, and I'll say this through my experience also, all of what we are speaking, and because Harveen, correct me if I'm wrong, is not just through experience. I think knowledge is power, right? Now, in
100%.
at this time, there's a lot of information available in so many avenues.
Yeah.
While you are free to choose what you want to listen to, it doesn't mean you need to follow everything which they tell you. That's one thing. And the second thing is you need to be able to figure out what works for you, right?
Yeah.
There are most of these classes which you attend. So I've been attending something. They talk a lot about why an epidural shouldn't be given, right? Why should you push in a specific way? Yes, you would want you would want the best case scenario to play out on that day, right? But if things don't work out, like we discussed, I think it's important to have that open mind. So you have the knowledge, but have the open mind to kind of change your ways of birthing, laboring, or functioning, or whatever it is situation, right? And there's nothing about, oh, you're losing something. No,
Something.
you're
Yeah.
doing something. You're bringing something into this world. So that's enough energy which is being taken out of you. So I think having that knowledge is absolutely important. And this whole breastfeeding problem starts at the hospital when the nurses come and tell you that you can't do this, right? That's not under your control. You're not going to
Yeah.
look at you're not going to visit that nurse ever again, right? So I think at that point of time, yes, you are sleep deprived, you've gone through whatever you've gone through of laboring and birthing. I think it's important to understand that you know your body best and you know what your child needs, and you have that knowledge of how to manage. Your child is not fed, breastfed for 2 days. That's fine. He or she needs food. You start your journey whenever you're ready.
Correct.
Right? I think that is important as a takeaway. Um, yeah, which I'm still taking away from all of the experiences which I hear. So
Yeah.
If I could just
I
quickly
lived that
add,
experience.
I was thinking if I could just
Go
quickly
ahead,
add one
Harveen.
thing here, Ranjani. The thing that you mentioned about reading, right? Since we've got a massive amount of content available to us, both influencers, social media, books, so many things on internet, right? I think it's important to not over consume that content. That's what I have learned throughout my 9 months of journey is read everything.
Exactly.
However, do not over consume and like remember when to stop and trust your own instincts because that is something that would
Exactly.
really
Yes.
work out for you. Something that maybe works out well for you, Ranjani, might not be the case for me, right? So every
Yeah.
individual is different. I remember all across these 9 months x number of people giving me x number of advices, and I was like, okay, this probably works out really well for you. However, I do understand how my body works, and something different could trust your own instincts because you are the best judge of it.
And it doesn't stop here. People are going to give us much more advices when it comes to parenting. Oh, I did this for my
100%.
child. I did this for you. Like,
100%.
yeah, you would have done it for me, but I don't think it works well when I'm, looking at my child. So
I have
it's going
so
to go on
many
as long as we're
I have so many of
associated to a
those discussions
society.
with my mother already. She's like, you know what? I didn't do it this way. I was like, I totally appreciate that, and I understand you didn't do it this way. However, I have a certain different way of doing things. So, yeah.
Way of doing it, yeah.
This is a whole conversation to be had, definitely. But again, thank you both so much. I think really lovely to hear both your confidence. I think this is very, very reassuring, and like I said, a lot of people will benefit from it. And on that note, we will end the conversation here, but we will pick up again once the babies are back and talk about how your journey is going from there, because I think a lot of people might actually find that interesting as well. Yeah. So thank
Perfect.
you.